few comments before I give my little draw, but I've got X more questions than comments. So the questions are, I mean, what we just read, it told, the mother of Shimshon not to drink, eat grapes or drink wine or strong drink. So that's like a addition to what we just read in the Torah. Torah, it just says wine, doesn't say anything about strong drink. It just says wine and grape products or whatever. So I guess the question is, so which is are they just going above and beyond, or is this a little bit different? I don't know. So that's one question. You guys could study that on your own and get back to me or something. And another question, which probably there's really no answer to, but is notice that each of these tribes, they brought these bowls and these spoons and bowls and stuff. They were all equal. They were all equal, right? But I feel like they were kind of like a unique thing, like the bowl from Judah maybe had a lion on it or something to make it like from the tribe of Judah, that kind of thing. So I'm thinking like, even though, as we're reading them, they're all identical, everything's like the same, but I feel like they weren't necessarily identical, maybe just identical in value, but not identical in the way they looked, possibly. Yeah, that's just an idea, just intention. Yeah, exactly. So and those are some little things that I've noticed just today while we were reading, But so today I want to talk to you about, I guess the connection, or just the connection of the two individuals, the Nazir and the convert, and how there's things that they do that are similar, and how there are things about them that are that can contrast, that are different. So first we'll talk about the Nazir. And Nazir, we just read about, it's someone who chooses to be holy for a certain time period, and they promise to take on these new rules, these new commandments of not to cut their hair, not to drink wine, and to stay away from dead bodies, and they show their dedication. They want to essentially, they were not born. This is the way I look at it. They were not born as a Levite or as a Kohen, but they want to still devote their themselves to be maybe to that level as a Levite or a Kohen. So they take on this Nazirite vow so that they can be a little bit closer to Hashem in some way, right? And so that's what they're doing. Now, on the other hand, we have someone who is not born as a Jew. He was born as something else, or he or she was born as something different, something not Jewish, but they want to be a Jew. They want to convert, right? And so by doing this, they're taking on these additional responsibilities, these additional commandments too. So that's just like the Nazir, they're taking on a lot more commandments, right? Like how many more? Like 600 more or something. I don't know how many more. And so they're taking on this, and so they're also wanting to be closer to Hashem, and that is why they do this. That's, one of the reasons maybe. Also maybe want to be part of a community. And so now let's look at the things that are different between the two. So the first one, between the difference between Nazir and convert is the Nazir is a temporary, most of the time temporary commitment. There was some that were not temporary. Obviously, we read just now about Shimshon, and his was like a lifelong commitment to be a Nazir. And I think also I want to say like John the Immerser, Yochanan the Immerser, or John the Baptist. I think he was also like a lifelong committed Nazir. But most of the rest was like a temporary thing, 3 months, a year, however long they wanted to be the Nazir. Whereas a convert is different. They are all a lifelong commitment. There's no being a Jew for like a month or a year. You're a Jew, you're going to be a Jew forever. It's like, circumcision is not, well, it's not reversible really, right? There's going to be that symbol there. And so so that's that's one of the differences between the two. And they another thing is you know another thing that both actually I forgot this. Another thing that they're similar is like they both are giving up something to be this new thing. So the Nazir is giving up like wine and I guess being able to attend funerals and cutting his hair or her hair. And so those are the things that they're giving up. And then like the convert is giving up kind of a way of living, and possibly even giving up, maybe having to give up some family or friends that do not approve of their conversion. So they're both giving up like something, something tangible. But another difference between the two is the Nazir, when he becomes a Nazir, he's kind of actually separating himself from the rest of the community in a way. He can't attend funerals. He can't drink wine or strong drink. There's some kind of a separation in a way. And so whereas the convert is kind of more joining the Jewish people and connecting with all the rest of the Jewish people. So that's a difference between that. And yeah, so those are some of the connections that I saw. So that these are, I mean, this is what I was kind of thinking about, these kind of differences, and how I feel like the Nazir is kind of like, I guess, an example in the Torah that conversion is an option. It's like a choice, like just like a regular Israelite can choose to be closer, kind of like a Kohen. A non-Jew can choose to be a Jew. There's like this level of choosing that you can choose to get closer to Hashem and do something specific to do that. So I guess I want to end with just a few questions for you guys to think about, dwell upon. So the first question is like, take a moment and think about like, what is something that you can do, even if it's a temporary, that can bring you closer to Hashem. What's like some either little thing or big thing that you can do that you can bring you closer to Hashem. And then another thing is just in general, how can you grow and become a better person through studying Torah or studying, increasing your belief in Hashem. So those are my two little questions to end my drash with, get you thinking for the rest of the week, maybe, hopefully. Right. So Shabbat Shalom. And we have anyone else giving a drash? Safa.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We can hear you.
We we already miss y'all, so look forward to the fall holidays. So there's a lot in these Torah portions here. Torah portion. Some people I noticed during this portion there's people around to fill the spirit, to take a Nazarite vow, and I would advise not to do that because there's no way out of it. I guess you could say that you did it not really thinking of the consequences and annul your vow on Yom Kippur, but it says in the Torah the only way to be done with the vow is by burning your hair and the given the proper sacrifice at the temple. We don't have a temple, so I think Yeshua is explicit in being careful with the vows we take. Thankfully, a woman under a covering, her husband can annul the vow if he hears about it in a certain time. But men, especially Jewish men, we're beholden to the words that we speak. So I think that's very troublesome because shouldn't be something that was taken lightly. But anyways, I wanted to discuss some insights that Atzalahu and myself, when we did this about a year ago we had a little podcast that Bezrat Hashem will get going again. But we had an in-depth discussion of the Sota, and it's one of the few mitzvot that Sota is the woman talked about, the process talked about in the fourth Aliyah. And this is a woman who is, she goes to the priest. Her husband has a spirit of jealousy, and she's brought, and either she drinks the waters of jealousy, and the water that causes the curse, and either she loses her child, or her insides, her reproductive organs come out through her body. So it's kind of a sobering issue. But Atzalahu and I kind of we would have a mitzvah a week, and it so happened that we came across the Sota, and so I'm not sure it was a year ago, but it was it's up there on Rambam's 613 mitzvot. It's like one of the top 10 that Rambam talks about in his 613 mitzvot. Okay, so what's interesting is this has its own tractate of Torah. It was so commonplace in the temple period, in the second temple period during the time of Yeshua, that it was suspended. Number one, because there was no Shekinah in the temple, and number two, it was prostitution and adultery was just commonplace. Okay, so there's a lot of people that take this particular procedure and want to put their 2 cents in it. They want to make it into, this is anti-woman, this is just barbaric practice. But this is one of those things that we have the writings of our sages. We have the writings that was brought down by the Sanhedrin, and we can go to it directly. And so I just want to kind of go over the overview of this, of what the Sota involved. Okay. From a certain religion, there seems to be an idea that during the time, for any capital crime, there was roaming Jews, and they would see you commit a crime, and they would put you to death immediately. They pick up stones and start killing you. But that's not the case at all. Other Middle Eastern countries, absolutely, there was honor killings and stuff like that. But for a Jewish society, we actually had laws, we had judges, we had courts, so people had a chance to defend themselves. Okay, so let's go into what the Sota process was. Okay, so in chapter, let me pull it up here. There's 2 things that come about from this passage. Number one was, it shows that there was a custom of a woman to cover her head. Okay, because so the point, because it says that part of the process of the woman that is said that she committed adultery or suspected of committing adultery, her head was uncovered. So the inference is that her head was covered. Okay, whether this is a rabbinic thing or whether it is a cultural thing, it was a norm for a woman to cover her head. It's one of the things that my wife and I came across before we it got us, one of the things that got us on the road to Judaism, being more Jewish, was to cover our heads, and how it was established as the norm. But okay, so let's take into what the soda involved. Okay, the soda process. Okay, not soda like if I come over to the Vegas, I'm always got my Diet Coke with me. It's a people got coffee. I take soda, but it's SOTA, SOTAH. Okay. All right. So in verse chapter 5, verse 31, it says the man shall be absolved of iniquity. This is after the SOTA has been proven that she did not commit adultery. Okay. It says 5 verse 31, the man who shall be absolved of iniquity. So the man is a spirit of jealousy from Hashem came down on him and propelled him to basically make sure that his wife was either vindicated or her sin was exposed. Okay, verse 31. The man who shall be absolved of iniquity, and the woman shall bear her iniquity. Okay, so the idea that this is a woman who is she is just minding her own business. Her husband comes in and he says, I don't know, there's something off, and I'm just jealous. I don't know what to do. No, okay. So the my train. That's right. All right. So I got my mind to subtract with all the text there. Okay. So the okay. So the woman, it wasn't willy nilly. Okay. So what it was, I'm going to try to describe. It was a specific act. This is an act that was going on all the time. So much so that they said we can't do this anymore because we're gonna have to kill all the women, right? We're gonna have to kill, this is just okay. So what happened is there was a specific man, okay, that a husband didn't like. He's like, I don't like this guy. It could have been an ex-flame of his wife. It could have been an ex-boyfriend. It could have been a person that she was really close with. Okay. And the husband says, look, I don't want you to be around this person. He's telling his wife, I don't want you to be around this person. Okay. So this is an act. So she not only ignores her husband, she goes to a place and she is publicly seen taken this man who her husband has told, look, I don't like you. I don't want you to be around him. Stay away from him. So she ignores her husband and she goes and secludes herself out of the public view. This is an act in public, so that people see this woman being taken and is in private with a man. So the husband now has to make a decision. The husband has to say, okay, now this woman is slighted now. She's been seen being with somebody else is not her husband. Okay, so she's already dishonored. Even if she's proven innocent, she's dishonored. Okay, because her conduct, okay, is not conduct of a Jewish wife. Okay, so by the act of him saying, look, okay, now you have brought shame on our family. Now we're gonna make sure that you didn't commit adultery. So it is a way for her to be vindicated. He doesn't have a choice in the matter. What Absalom I read in the Talmud discussions says he doesn't have any say in the matter. Either she is put to death. Like, look, there's pretty good enough proof now that you've either not committed acts of adultery, but you've went down that step, and we've got proof. So what are you going to do? The husband steps in as a protector for his wife and says, look, we're gonna put it to Hashem. Okay. Now the things that happened to her, and there was one inference that said that the husband or the adulterer, the man, his testicles rupture. So he doesn't get off scot-free. But that's, we don't see the after effects. We see the actual vindication of the wife. But the point is that this whole ordeal was about carrying yourself correctly in the eyes of the community. Okay. And so from that point of view, we see it as a way of protecting oneself. She made a bad decision. She thought she was going to be rebellious and be off with this guy. Don't be telling me what to do. I can do whatever I want. I'm a modern woman. And the community is like, and so it was a way for Hashem to say, look, you made a bad decision, but we're going to rectify it. But as far as getting the honor back, I don't know how you come back from that in a marriage, being brought in front of the entire community. And it was definitely it's a serious thing, but it's definitely not. With everything, we got to take everything in context and not take our feelings. For instance, I just wanted to, if anybody has a desire to actually read the prohibitions and the information that is provided in the Talmud about the sota and the process, and it's quite a big informative read. So everything in context, and even though when Hashem calls us to the carpet, because we're all unfaithful in different ways to Hashem. Israel is likened to a bride, and in the book of Hosea, we proved ourselves as adulterous, and so let us, put our lives in good conduct, that we be good representatives of Hashem, and be good stewards, and that we take everything in context, and let us study before we expound on situations. But Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Wanted to start off with the nightmare that I had this week. I had a nightmare. I think it's very interesting that I had it this week. I didn't know that we were, when I had it, I didn't know that we were studying this Torah portion. I had a nightmare that I was an adulteress and that I had been super unfaithful to Reuben. And I woke up, and I remember I woke up with that feeling. And then I came to, and I was like, no, I've been faithful for my whole entire marriage. This is a nightmare. It's not true at all whatsoever. But I thought it was interesting that I had that nightmare this week. Anyways, there was a question that I think, someone had. I think it was Carrie, and she was asking, why did the angel of the Lord exhort them to not let her eat anything unclean? If it's already the practice by commandment not to eat anything unclean. And I heard one comment that was perhaps unclean in this case because he was a Nazirite, and that he was not, well, also because of his role, of what his role would be that there would be a lot of death in his life, that perhaps there could be some kind of contamination, and also times of desperation as a warrior, where he would be tempted to eat meat that was unclean or eat clean meat in a state of uncleanness, whether the meat was unclean or he was or maybe even he was unclean. Just take extra measures for that. And so the Haftarah portion is obviously a good connection to the Torah portion, because it was talking about the Nazirite vow in the Torah portion. And Shimshon or Samson was also connected to that because he was a Nazarite. He was one of the three famous Nazarites that we have that I remember. We have Samson or Shimshon, and there's also the prophet Samuel, right? And there was also Yochanan, John the Immerser, John the Baptist, famous Nazarites. And it's interesting also that the Nazarite vow, you don't have to say it very explicitly according to halakha to take it. Like you can, if you say something like, you know, I don't drink grape juice, or I don't drink wine, or I'm not doing that, or something like that. It's very weighty. So not even to, it's basically a warning to not even try to imply that you might be doing anything that a Nazarite would be doing, or else you could be thought of as having taken the Nazarite vow. And yeah, just to reiterate something that someone else said in the chat, which is that there's no way to end the Nazarite vow today. So theoretically, if you took the Nazarite vow, you would have to be a Nazarite forever. Some rabbis, what they do about that is they take it upon themselves to annul the vow for a person, for a member. Whether that's really valid or not, I don't know, but it is something that's done within Orthodoxy. They basically consider it as the person who takes the Nazarite vow doesn't fully know all the implications of the vow, and so therefore they feel they have the right to annul it. But another approach is that simply if you take the Nazarite vow, you just can never get out of it. And that's the stance of Ari Lesser. I never knew that the reason why he has long hair is because he took the Nazarite vow. So another interesting connection about it is in the Torah, it says about the Nazarite vow, it says that it's a wonderful thing. Someone wants to do this wonderful thing, and the angel that appeared to the couple, to Samson's parents, he said that his name was Wonderful. And wonderful means Hele. It can mean like fearful or awful. It could be dreadful, just or terrible. It could mean many different things. I think it's very interesting that when Hashem wants to do something and he sends an angel, it's a very personal message. I see that usually when an angel talks to someone, it's a very personal message. But when it's something for the nation of Israel, when it's something for a group of people, Hashem usually doesn't send angels to talk to people, a group of people, a big group of people. He sends what? What does he usually send? No, I just said he doesn't send an angel. He usually sends prophets. He sends other men to give those messages. And also usually when an angel comes, from what I remember anyways, it's usually to give a positive message, a message of encouragement and blessing. But when he wants to warn people or give them a curse, he'll send a person. He'll send a human being. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's very interesting. And I feel like as a mother, you know, the relationship between Hashem and his people, it's like husband and wife, right? And oftentimes, you know, like a child, because the mother is the one that's always around them, mostly, right? They'll get punishments from the mother. So I feel, I don't know about everyone's family, but in my family, I feel like I'm the one who's, you know, disciplining the children most of the time and, you know, giving them a lot of just stern warnings and stuff like that. And Reuben, he does discipline them sometimes, but not as often. And I'm wondering if there's some kind of parallel, you know, in terms of God and, you know, the way he sends men, the way he sends prophets to give these stern warnings and rebukes to people. So anyways, I also want to talk about asceticism. Is that the right word? Asceticism? Asceticism is practiced in a lot of religions. You know, we had in earlier Christianity, there was this movement of people who wanted to get closer to God. And what they would do to get closer to God is they would whip themselves, they would crucify themselves, they would hurt themselves, they would abuse themselves. And they felt like by hurting themselves, that God would see this and bestow some kind of grace and maybe miracle on their behalf. And they saw it as, you know, I'm sharing in the sufferings of Jesus. But the difference is that, you know, Yeshua didn't do it to himself, you know, right? Other people did it to him. He was focused on doing good and being righteous. And we have movements even today, even still also in Christianity, where we see that people, they say, you know, we do have a lot of fast in Judaism where we do deny ourselves for a time, but it's not a lifestyle, you know. Judaism is a lifestyle. We teach that we should enjoy ourselves. We say there's no fasting allowed on Shabbat. We say that we should drink strong drink on certain days. You know, on Kiddush and all our holy festivals. We're not, you know, like the Baptists or something or Adventists where we're like, oh, you can never drink alcohol, you can never indulge in that way. Jews are instead like, if you're going to indulge, do it in a holy way. Have fun and rejoice before God, rejoice before Hashem. I think that's one way where you can tell if a movement is from Hashem or not, is do they want you to live a life of suffering always, or do they want you to live a life that is filled with joy and blessing and even pleasure? I mean, you know, some of the most of the laws, not most, but a lot of the laws that we have in Torah govern what we eat and our sexual lives. And that's because these are the things that give us pleasure, right? As physical beings, it's our eating and it's sex. And Hashem wants us to do both things, but in a way that sanctifies and honors him. So that's all I wanted to share.
So maybe David will chip in here because he was the one watching the video and I just overheard some of it. But there was a video of a man that was teaching something on this topic with the lady who was suspected of having an affair. And one of the points that he brought up was that once the husband knew that a wife had been faithful, that it brought them back together, that it would give peace to the man, that he didn't need to be jealous, and it would bring God back into the relationship. It would bring Hashem back into the relationship and bringing a different peace to the home. And that was something that I just wanted to bring up because I thought that it was valuable, that our relationships are supposed to have that peace.
It was Rabbi Chaim Rickman I was listening to. Is really great. He used to be the director of the Temple Institute, and he's got a channel called Jerusalem Lights. But yeah, I think a couple of things I guess I would just bring and clarify at least what was discussed today. The sota, like the whole ceremony that was described today, it wasn't required either. It's not a requirement. Like if jealous husband asked his wife, you know, have you been unfaithful? And she said, yes, I have been. Then, you know, there would be no requirement for it. But if she had been faithful and the husband is still jealous, That's something Chaim Rickman was saying. Like that's the whole thing. That's the whole issue that they're trying to solve there. Like it's really hard to come back from that jealousy, like thinking that, so the God is trying to resolve that. Yeah, so the whole ceremony, the whole procedure is to bring the marriage back together. Like that's the purpose of it.
Can I say a word or two? Can you hear me?
Just 2 words. Just kidding.
According to Rabbi Richmond, the woman must agree or the procedure cannot take place, and the husband can never have a hint of untowardness in his conduct, or it would not qualify. And so the woman is determined to be vindicated, and so she agrees and goes to the priest. And as time lapsed throughout history, morals became more and more lax, and so the procedure was disbanded. So that's all I wanted to say. I did send the teaching to as many as I could in our group. His teachings are only about 18 minutes long, so please watch. Thank you.
Wonderful. A lot of good insights.